Good day, folks. So I thought I'd put together a quick little video going over some tips on how to film fireworks with your Mavic Air 2. Tomorrow is the 4th of July, and there's a lot of new pilots who have picked the Mavic Air 2 up as their very first drone and want to film some fireworks shows. Now this year is a little bit different because a lot of the big fireworks shows have been canceled, but if you're going to be doing any private firework displays, you can still get some really nice footage with your Mavic Air 2. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a few editing tips how to make your firework videos really stand out. So let's just jump right in and take a closer look. So as I mentioned, the 4th of July is tomorrow at the time of filming this video anyways, and there's going to be a lot of people who want to film the fireworks. Maybe this is going to be your very first time filming fireworks with a drone. In Canada here, we just celebrated Canada Day on July 1st. I was camping and we decided to pick up some fireworks and let them off ourselves just to celebrate. And I captured them with my Mavic Air 2 and they turned out pretty good. Of course, fireworks you let off yourself are never as spectacular as a large events fireworks show, but they can still be interesting to film nonetheless. So I'm just going to give you a few tips here, and these will ensure that your firework videos that you film with your Mavic Air 2 are going to turn out great. So the first thing to make note of here is that obviously if you're going to be filming fireworks, you're going to be flying at night. So make sure you know the laws in your country on whether it's legal to fly at night. Some countries you're not allowed to fly at night altogether. Other countries have very specific requirements when it comes to lighting. So just make sure you know all the rules and regulations and bylaws, just so your nice evening doesn't turn out with a large fine. And that kind of goes into my next point. If this is the first time you're going to be flying a drone at night, just note that it is quite different. Once you get the drone up in the air, you're going to notice it's going to be very difficult to see what's on the screen, and it's quite easy to lose your orientation. The Mavic Air 2 does have LED lighting on it, but once you get up high enough, and especially if there's going to be smoke from fireworks going off, they can be very difficult to see. On the bottom of the Mavic Air 2, we have an LED light that you can turn on in the settings, and that does make the drone quite a bit more visible up in the sky. Alternatively, you can pick up these little strobe lights. This one here is by Ulanzi. LumaCube makes a nice one as well, but it is quite pricey. The Ulanzi one's about half the price. These things are quite bright and it does make your drone visible in the sky. They're just held on with Velcro. When you purchase them, they come with a couple extra pieces of Velcro, so if you do fly a couple different drones, you can move it from drone to drone. The Ulanzi one is rechargeable by USB-C. It does have several different colors you can set it to and different strobe effects to set it to what works best for you. So I guess that's the first set of tips I have for you. Make sure you know your local laws for flying at night, and make sure that your lighting is adequate. Now the next tip I have here for you, if you're going to be filming at a location that you're not really familiar with, make sure you get there a little early before it gets dark. That way you can kind of survey the area, look for obstacles, buildings, tall trees, towers, anything that you could potentially crash the drone into. Again, at night, visibility on your screen is going to be very poor, so you're not going to be able to see if there's an obstacle in your way. You can't rely on the obstacle avoidance on the drone at night. It's not going to be any help to you. So definitely it's a good idea to survey the area and make sure you know any obstacles that could potentially be a hazard. Now when it comes to camera settings for capturing fireworks, I usually recommend to leave it in auto. When I'm filming fireworks, I always leave the camera settings in auto, and the reason being is that when filming fireworks, especially if it's ones that you're setting off yourself, they don't last very long, so you only have one shot to get it right. During the day, if you're filming some landscape, you have a lot of time to go in and check the exposure, make sure everything is the way you like it, and if you're not quite happy with it, you can go back and film it again. You don't get that luxury with filming fireworks, so sometimes it's best just to leave it in auto, and that way you know it's always going to turn out fairly decent. Of course, you can go in and set some manual settings, but that's kind of a personal preference. The only thing you may want to change is set your white balance, but personally for myself, fireworks are all different colors, and there's going to be a lot of different color flashing on your screen, so to me, setting your white balance isn't all that important. In fact, all the sample footage that I'm going to be showing throughout this video was shot with auto white balance. Now lastly here, for a last tip before we get into the editing part of it, is your flying style, how you're going to film it. Filming fireworks can be a little bit tricky because it's hard to know how high they are going to detonate. If you're filming a large firework display, of course they're going to be more powerful and they're going to be a lot higher up. Most likely you will have to film at the max height that you can legally fly, and that's 400 feet, and that should allow you to get a nice view of the fireworks. It's going to be hard to know where they detonate until they start, so you might have to make some adjustments as you go. If you're filming fireworks that you purchase yourself at a corner store, of course they're not going to be as powerful and definitely not as high. And usually there's a label on the side that will tell you at what height they detonate, and that does make it easier to set the height of your drone so you can film. Myself, I like to go up a little bit higher, and that way you can get some nice downward shots. It always looks really nice. After that, it's just your own filming style, and depending on what you want to do. Some people like to fly through the fireworks, some people like to film it from above, some people like to film them from a distance. No matter how you film the fireworks, it's going to look fantastic. Some fireworks can be very powerful, and flying your drone through them may not be the best idea. You could do some damage to it. The other thing to keep in mind too, if it's a public display of fireworks, flying through them could land you in some trouble. Of course, if you're letting them off yourself, then that's a different story. But don't feel you have to fly too close to them or through them to get some really interesting shots. In a few minutes here, I'm going to show you some editing techniques, and you're going to see that you can get some really beautiful close-up shots, almost to the point it feels like you're in the middle of them without actually putting your drone in harm's way. So you've gone in and you've captured your fireworks with your Mavic Air 2 or whatever drone you were filming with. Now it's time to edit. So first of all, I'm going to bring up a video here that I shot. Now I'm not going to edit a whole video together. I'm just going to show you a few interesting things you can do. So I'm just going to find a spot where the fireworks are going off, and I'm going to start maybe right about there. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that for you. And you can see there's nothing too spectacular about it. These are ones that we just purchased ourselves, so they weren't that big, but they're still interesting and nice to film. And yeah, it turned out pretty good. But what we can do is make that even more interesting. So the first thing we're going to do is duplicate the track. Now, just to let you know, I'm using LumaFusion here. It could be a little bit different on whatever video editing software suite that you use. But in LumaFusion, we're just going to hit that button there. That's going to make an identical track. Now I'm going to shrink it down just so we can work with it a little bit easier. I'm going to pull that track over top. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change the sizing, and we're going to offset it a little bit as well. So right now these two tracks are going to be playing at the exact same time, but the only track that is visible is this top track. We're going to use a blending mode technique that will allow both firework displays to come through. We're also going to change the sizing to make it a little bit more dynamic. So I'm going to double tap that top track there just to bring it up into the editing mode. And the first thing we're going to do is go to frame and fit. What I'm going to do is just pull that top video off to the side a little bit. And what we're going to do is go down to blending mode. Now, so we're going to set the blending mode. Right now it's on normal, but we're going to change that. And picking the appropriate blending mode sometimes is just, you got to play around with it to see what works best for the situation on what you're filming. This one here called screen, you can see that we can see both sets of fireworks. We have the original track and then the one that we've overlaid over top of it. So now let's go to cropping here, and I'm just going to crop this top one in a little bit from the left and the right. The handle for the left is out of view, so I'm going to use the slider there. Now we're going to go to size and position, and we're going to increase the size a bit. And let's do that there. So now if we go back to the main preview and we play it, you can see here how we now have two sets of fireworks. We got the original one you can see here, and we have the other one over there playing to the side, and it's quite a bit larger. We've basically zoomed in on it. So you can see there it gives you a nice effect, and it makes you feel like you're a lot closer. But what I don't like is that they're perfectly in sync. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just zoom in a little bit here. We're going to actually pull this top track and just slide it down a little bit. So now when we play it back, you can see that the two sets of fireworks are going off at different times, and it looks a little bit more natural. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. Now the other thing we can do here is add some color. These particular fireworks here just were kind of a bland color, but we can change that. So what we're going to do is we're going to double tap again that top track, and we're going to go over to the color and effects tab, and we're going to pick this one here under color presets, just original. And from here we can kind of change the brightness. We can do a lot of different things to make it a little bit different than the other track that we're playing. So we can drag these sliders around, we can add some red to it. But here if we go down to the hue, you can see if we slide it down this way, it makes it purple. And you know, it actually looks really interesting. So let's go back and take a look at that now. So we'll play that back. You can see now we've got the white lights and we've got purple in there. So yeah, that actually looks pretty good. And you could even zoom in farther if you want to make it look like you're more right within the midst of the fireworks going off without actually putting your drone in harm's way. Of course, when filming with the Mavic Air 2, you're not going to have an audio track of the fireworks going off, but you know, when editing you could put it to music. But if you prefer to have a more organic sound, You could record with a separate audio recorder, even your smartphone, and then overlay the audio track underneath and just line it up, and then you can get the full effect of the fireworks. Well folks, that's basically it for my video. A few tips for filming fireworks with your Mavic Air 2, and a few tips for editing the fireworks videos later on for sharing on social media. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.